I'd like to start this video off by saying I am not a financial advisor. Should you choose to invest in Bitcoin or any other asset, do your own research or seek the advice of an actual financial advisor. Now, before we get into this article, I'm going to talk about something. It is quite obvious by now that the coronavirus is responsible for the majority of the dumps that we've seen in the market. Yes, there was other problems, but I think the coronavirus at this point is the leading. Well, I'm not even sure how to phrase it. It's where the most fear is coming from. It's what's driving the most fear. So, to give you an example of this, I live in Western Pennsylvania. There's no cases here yet. I cannot buy any fucking toilet paper anywhere. Schools are shut down for at least the next 2 weeks. What else? Hell, the technician on the machine that I just started on at work had to go back to Austria because of the travel ban that went into effect last night at midnight. So even if the virus isn't near you yet, it's probably affecting you already. So yeah, there's definitely widespread fear, and it's probably going to last a good while until this starts to blow over. So with that, I'm sure there's probably going to be more downside in the stock market. The Dow Jones, the S&P, the global markets, Bitcoin, all of them. There's probably going to be more downside, and that's to be expected. This is no doubt a black swan event. I made a video describing what that was not too long ago. So when the market starts to recover, things may be a little bit different for. Well, first off, I had a prediction for Bitcoin to reach between 12 to 15,000 by the halving. I can't hold that prediction anymore. I mean, there may be a run up to the halving, but I don't think it's going to reach that high. It's still possible. I can't say the possibility isn't there, but it really depends on what happens with this virus over the course of the next couple of weeks. I mean, the halving is still technically 2 months away, just about. So there's still some time. And I'm sure by that time Bitcoin will have at least found the bottom. Long term, my view still hasn't changed on that. The halving, it's still a cut in the supply, and it still has the same effects as it has before. You cut the supply, price surges, and of course, if you look at the last 2 cycles, it took a year and a half for it to actually happen. Of course, in order for this to happen, supply initially gets cut, and then demand starts to rise, and that's what causes the price to go really parabolic. I'm taking this time during these downward price movements. I'm just dollar cost averaging because honestly, I didn't think we were going to see prices this low. So, yeah. Anyways, moving on. Okay, I don't know why I hit stop when I said moving on. That was just stupid because I wasn't switching pages, but whatever. Anyways, Bitcoin and gold are doing the same thing. Now, Bitcoin has had this history of being dubbed a safe haven asset, and everybody's saying it's failing as a safe haven asset because it's dropped. Gold is a safe haven asset, and it's dropping. So, anyways, they're doing the same thing in the coronavirus crisis. So it's Pompliano. On March 14th, Tyler Winklevoss, the co-founder and CEO of Gemini and prominent early Bitcoin investor, took to Twitter to defend Bitcoin despite the recent market crash. People think Bitcoin's probably going to be crashing to zero, that it's not going to be able to recover from this. It's not just Bitcoin, it's the entire fucking planet. Anyway, when this coronavirus shit blows over, there's likely going to be a lot of upside on Bitcoin and a lot of the other markets. I don't know how long it's going to take the regular stock market to recover, but we have the Bitcoin halving coming up, and that's definitely going to it's going to have at least some effect on this, and that's still 2 months away. So it's this pandemic yes, it's a pandemic. If you haven't heard, who declared this? The World Health Organization has declared this a pandemic as of I think like a couple nights ago, maybe 2 nights ago. I'm not sure. Anyways, yeah, when this blows over, there's gonna people are gonna start rushing back into the markets, and then you're gonna see a lot of upside from that. And that's another thing. If you're investing in regular stocks, you probably, I mean, I'd imagine you've sold a lot of your assets by now, but keep your money on the sidelines at least, or what? If I'm sure you have a strategy in mind. Me personally, I'm waiting it out. I'm waiting for the market to find a bottom, at least close to the bottom, at least to where it's confirmation to where you're getting confirmation that the market's turning around, and then I'm going to start buying in. Bitcoin, I'm dollar cost averaging. I'm not selling any of it. So, the further down it goes, the more I buy. It's as simple as that. Anyways, in the tweet, Tyler emphasizes that Bitcoin is still in its infancy, stating, "If Bitcoin isn't gold 2.0, then what is it? The fact that it's not acting how you might expect only underscores just how early it is." Yeah, I mean, it's true. Bitcoin's only a decade old. This is the first financial crisis that it's ever experienced. And this isn't exactly a normal financial crisis. It's a health crisis. The world is in major panic major panic momo. What the fuck is wrong with me today? Major panic mode. So everybody's selling everything because they need cash. Yeah, for obvious reasons. Supporting Winklevoss's assertion, Anthony Pompliano, the co-founder and partner at Morgan Creek Digital, has attributed the recent crypto market meltdown to a broader liquidity crisis coursing through the global economy. He said, "Bitcoin and gold are doing the same thing, just as you would expect them to do in a liquidity crisis. They go down. Same thing happened to gold during the liquidity crisis of 2008, too. As in 2008, the metals markets have suffered enormous losses as a result of the current liquidity crisis, with gold futures falling 4.25% and silver futures crashing 8% in a single day on India's markets. Over the past week, gold is down about 10% compared to Bitcoin's 50%, while becoming increasingly correlated since January." Yeah, that's another thing. Gold has a lot more liquidity than Bitcoin. So, this is to be expected in a downturn. Bitcoin's going to crash a lot harder than some of the larger, the better known assets like gold. Gold had an $8 trillion market cap compared to Bitcoin only having had a I think it was like 1.5 or $150 billion. I think it's down to like $100 billion now, or some, maybe a little lower than that. I haven't really checked on the market cap, but Bitcoin's market cap was dramatically lower than gold's market cap, so Bitcoin couldn't handle as much of a sell-off as gold could. Anyways, moving on. Yeah, liquidity crisis drives market collapse. In a recent episode of his Off the Chain podcast, Pomp argues that the shutting down of the economic activity in response to the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic has sparked a liquidity crisis, driving down the prices of Bitcoin and gold despite their status as safe haven assets. A liquidity crisis means that investors all rush to the exit doors at the same time, but there are so many more sellers than buyers that investors actually have a hard time offloading their assets for cash. Quite literally, investors began aggressively lowering the price they are willing to accept for each asset in exchange for the cash which they are desperately seeking right now. A good example of that is if an asset is crashing, say it went down from $200 to $100, and someone puts in a market order to sell and it doesn't get filled immediately, they retract that market order and they put a limit order all the way down to like maybe $50 to try to get rid of it, just so they can have cash on hand. That's the kind of thing that's happening. Pomp points to the 30% crash in the price of gold during the 2008 global financial crisis, stating, "This wasn't because gold is a bad store of value or that it lost safe haven status after 5,000 years. It was because gold has a liquid market and investors needed liquidity over anything else. Gold is real easy to offload. There's a lot of liquidity in gold, and so when they make those same orders like that, like I was just mentioning, they don't really have to lower their price because it takes a lot more selling pressure to bring gold's price down. And So there's always people buying gold despite the fact that gold prices falling, and there's a lot of people probably flocking to gold, thinking that it's a safe. I mean, it is a safe haven asset, but thinking that they have better chances in gold than they would in the regular stock market, which is true. Gold did drop, but it didn't crash as hard as some of the other assets. But anyways, the people that are offloading their gold, they can actually sell because there's still demand for it. Despite gold's sudden drop in price, the Morgan Creek Digital co-founder notes that the price of gold nearly tripled. I don't know why it says trebled in 5 years, from $650 in 2006 to more than $1,800 in 2011, as concerns regarding U.S. monetary policy, inflation, and debt increasingly gripped the markets. And this right here, this is the reason Bitcoin was made. Anyways, simply, gold served as a store of value and a safe haven asset over the full timeline of the crisis, but it has succumbed to the liquidity crisis during the worst 6 months. This is what I believe is happening to Bitcoin right now. Can crypto recover from a liquidity crisis? Pomp asserts that most investors who were holding Bitcoin for cash likely sold over the last week, driving the huge losses recently sustained across the crypto markets. While hesitating to guarantee that Bitcoin will not see deeper local prices, Pomp speculates that most investors who are still holding Bitcoin are holders of last resort who will not sell their Bitcoin. He's probably right about that. I mean, I'm one of them. Regardless of price movements in the USD exchange value, the holders of last resort won't sell their Bitcoin. They are strong hands. They can't be shaken out of their belief. In fact, they are likely to be buying Bitcoin on these large price drops rather than selling. They are exchanging USD for Bitcoin right now. Yeah. I can say that's true because, once again, I'm one of them. Further, Pompliano expects that the upcoming halving will coincide with the introduction of monetary stimulus measures and may further drive an influx of investors seeking safe haven exposure. Predicting interest rate cuts and quantitative easing, Pomp expects that investors will soon seek to weather the liquidity crisis by seeking exposure to sound money and safe haven assets, adding both Bitcoin and gold should do incredibly well during this time period. And I just had a dyslexic moment and reversed the two words there. It actually read both gold and Bitcoin. I don't know why I said both Bitcoin and gold. I don't know, but whatever. Yeah. So, sound money. So basically what he's saying that, while it may seem bad right now, further down the road, Bitcoin and gold are likely going to do incredibly well. They are likely going to benefit from this in the long run. So right now, I don't know what you guys are doing, whether you're dollar cost averaging, whether you sold out, whether you are just waiting for the bottom, or whatever it is you're doing. Do be careful out there. I don't know how many times I've said be careful, because the world is in panic right now, and it's hard to tell what's going to happen here soon. But right now, as it stands, the situation is likely going to get worse than before it gets better. We are at 137,000 cases in a world populated with 7.5 billion people. It could get much worse. I do not mean to spread fear, but it's best to be prepared. I mean, I sure the fuck hope you got toilet paper, because I didn't. Anyways, moving on. Okay, Bitcoin's chart here. I'm not going to go too deep into technical analysis, because first off, there's not much market structure to work with. Bitcoin dropped all the way down to $3,800. It bounced up to just roughly $6,000, and it's been trading range bound ever since. It's kind of putting in a symmetrical triangle here. We're on a 4-hour time frame, by the way. It's been putting in a symmetrical triangle formation. If it breaks up, I don't see it breaking above this resistance here, because that is a very strong resistance, being that it was the resistance that held us in a downtrend last year for 7 months. Yes, we fell back into that downtrend. That's how steep this drop was. long term, I am still bullish on Bitcoin. Long term, I still see Bitcoin breaking its previous all-time high and reaching heights that it has never seen before. Short term, Bitcoin's probably not going to go very high. In the next couple of weeks, we could see lower prices. We could go down into the 4,000s, maybe even into the 3,000s. This is kind of an unpredictable time considering all the fear that's out in the markets right now. It's really hard to tell exactly what's going to happen. Bitcoin's at 5,400 right now, even. This virus, it is likely going to get worse before it gets better. 137,000 people last time I checked sick. Well, that's the case count. That's the entire case count. 137,000 people in a world of 7.5 billion people. The rate that this virus is spreading, it's like I said, it's likely going to get worse. I remember, I forget where I read it, but something said that up to 40% of the global population could get infected by this virus before it's said and done. I mean, that remains to be seen. There's no way of telling exactly how many people is going to get infected. It just matters. It's a matter of what people do from here to avoid spreading the infection. Sporting events across the country have been shut down. Last night the travel ban was put in place at midnight. There are efforts being put in place to contain this situation in the United States. In Europe is getting it hard. That's all I can say. It's going to be, there are tough times ahead. You guys need to keep up with the news. Watch your charts. I mean, if you sold out for cash, I don't blame you. Cash is basically king right now. You gotta protect your own. You gotta look out for yourself during these times. Me personally, like I said, I'm dollar cost averaging Bitcoin. I'm sitting on the sidelines in the stock market, waiting to see where it goes, how far down it goes, and I'm gonna wait for a confirmation. There are some assets in the regular stock market that I'm dollar cost averaging into, but mostly I'm waiting on the sidelines. If this turns into a recession, it could last quite a while, but this could be the perfect time for Bitcoin to shine, like Pompliano said. But that all remains to be seen. Bitcoin's halving is not even 2 months away, and that could actually bring some attention to Bitcoin during these tough times, and we may see a run up because of that. So, like I said, keep an eye on the charts. Look out for yourselves. Be careful. We've experienced a pandemic before. It was a swine flu. I forget exactly what all happened, but I don't remember it getting this bad in my area. I don't remember. Yeah, it just remains to be seen what happens. Just like I said, be careful. Avoid going into public places. Avoid touching handrails. Avoid public transportation. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Google information about this virus if there's anything you need to know. There's a lot of information out there on the CDC's website, on the World Health Organization's website. Just do whatever you need to do to protect yourself. And yeah, there are going to be some tough times ahead, but we've gotten through bad situations before, but we can get through this one. Just in the meantime, stay safe, and I don't think there's really anything else I have to go over here. Like I said, for Bitcoin, I don't see us having too much of a. I don't see Bitcoin's price going up right now. I don't see it happening in the next couple of weeks. Like I said, more downsides likely to happen, but in the long term, Bitcoin. I still see Bitcoin breaking its all-time high and reaching new heights. Bitcoin's fundamentals are still strong. Nothing fundamentally has changed about Bitcoin, so keep that in mind. And with that, that is all I have for you guys today. I will see you all next time. Just stay safe out there.